Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints, and this one is awesome. It's with Anthony from Swig Swine Barbecue, with 5 locations in and around Charleston. Well, actually, 6 locations. It'll 5.5. It'll make sense after you watch this. Anthony is an amazing human. He and his business have been through a lot in the last few years. He goes into depth about everything. He's super honest, super direct, so forthcoming on everything that he's feeling and everything that he's gone through and how he's dealt with it. I guarantee you're going to leave this interview having learned something, if not a dozen things. We go in depth about a festival that he is one of 4 people that started it. It's called Holy Smokes. It's a low country barbecue festival in Charleston, South Carolina. This year it's November 9th. This is 2024. If you listen to this in a different year, it's a different date. This supports Hogs for a Cause, which proceeds go towards pediatric brain cancer, and then also the Ronald McDonald House of Charleston. He goes into depth about that, and it's so beautiful and wonderful and near and dear to his heart. It's a really special episode. I can't thank him enough for taking the time. I can't thank him enough for talking about being a submariner, which is just fascinating to me, and I think it'll be really fascinating to you. So sit back, relax, enjoy this, and be sure to visit your local barbecue joint. Good morning, Anthony. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm really glad we finally got this together. I've wanted to talk to you for a number of years, and I love the way that you handle your business. I love the community that you've created, and I'm a big fan from afar. So thank you for
Well, thank you.
taking the time. And I would be remiss to not talk about your son Asher just to begin with this, because you've made it public. It's something that is very personal to you, but also that it was something you made public. Why was it important that you made it public in the beginning? And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, man, I think there's a number of years ago, I tried to hire a social media team, somebody to handle my social media for me, and they told me that we can't really do that because you've created a monster. The people that follow Swig and Swine and the people that tune in to your social media channels are there to see not only Swig and Swine, but what happens behind the scenes and the people behind the scenes and the person behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So, my Asher has always been a pretty big part of my social media, especially with his drumming. He's a very good drummer.
Yeah.
So as I grew with Swig and Swine over the past 10 years, everybody has gotten a little glimpse of my family life, and we'd show up to events in faraway places and people would ask about my family and my
Wow.
kids, and so that really but yeah, getting that out about Asher was important, just to let everybody know. Obviously his accident was on December 3rd, and he suffered a traumatic brain injury, and it's been a long 8 months.
Yeah.
He was in trauma ICU for 2.5 months. February 14th, we moved him to Shepherd's facility in Atlanta, Georgia, where he was until the end of May for NORA rehab, or TBI rehab. He did very well. He's come a long way. He's come a
Yeah.
long way in 8 months. We're grateful to have him on this side versus the other. It was a tough road, but all things considered, we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
So,
What did that experience teach you about yourself and about family and about your friends? And
well, that I always knew the barbecue community was tight. I knew I had a lot of friends in Charleston, but this whole experience has shown me a lot of the friendships that I have and that I valued, and I value them even more now after this experience. I'll tell you, the biggest takeaway for me is through our fundraising, we're Hogs for the Cause,
yeah.
and the Ronald McDonald House of Charleston are our 2 biggest funds that we raise money for throughout the course of the year, the different events we do. Last September, I went with the guys from Home Team Barbecue and Hogs for the Cause, and we presented a check for $1 million to Prisma Healthcare of Greenville, South Carolina, to help in building a new oncology hematology unit.
Wow.
And what stood out to me then, but even more so now, that unit, after the doctors finished their portion of it, they turned it over and the architects turned it over to the parents. So parents who have been through the walk actually got to help design these rooms to make it more comfortable.
Wow.
And, like a cubicle to actually plug in a computer and sit and work at during the day while your child's undergoing treatment. A bed, like a couch that has a table in front of it, but at night the table can fold away and that couch opens to a bed for them to sleep in. And, it took a couple weeks of sleeping on a lounge chair in the hospital room in the trauma unit, to realize that, holy cow, the money that we're donating and we're raising by cooking barbecue to these organizations is really making a difference, because, I can't tell you how miserable it was.
Oh yeah.
To have to live on a lounge chair and to go and take a bird bath in the bathroom in the lobby every day. These units will have a area for the families to eat together. There's 2 or 3 bathroom facilities on the unit that have showers for the parents to use. I mean, just the little things that you don't really think of until you're actually put into that situation. So it was very eye-opening to me to see the difference that we're making, because there's a lot of times, we're fortunate with Holy Smokes, we're able to raise thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we see the difference with Ronald McDonald House. We're able to renovate bathrooms. We're able to replace the carpet. So we can see the tangible things that we're doing with this money that we're working hard for. But then sometimes you're giving money in organizations and you don't really see anything, and you kind of walk away with a question. And there's no more questions. That money that we raised for Hogs for the Cause, and they're giving it to this Prisma to build this oncology hematology unit and just to make it more comfortable for those families, is life-changing.
Yeah, during such a hard time. I spent, it's not equivalent, but I spent 12 days in the hospital with my mom in ICU. That's half of the time. And yeah, there's nothing like, even if you want to do any work, anything, you're in those, it's the most uncomfortable.
Yep.
And spending like 24 hours at a hospital, which you did, which your family did, if you don't have that, that's such a blessing that you've given. That's amazing. And it is hard to see the tangible work that you do when I'm giving to charities all the time, but I have no idea if where's it going, what's happening, and that's really special. When is the next hog? Is it in November or
November 9th?
November
9th. Yep. This will be, it's Holy Smokes is November 9th.
Yeah.
Hogs for the Cause is in usually the first weekend of April.
Okay. Yeah, I mixed up that. Yeah.
So Holy Smokes Barbecue Festival, founded by myself and the guys at Home Team Barbecue. And then we have another partner, Joe Norton and John Davis. There's 4 of us that formed a little company called Q Events. And we pull this festival off every year. And we take half the money, a total nonprofit. We donate every dollar we raise. Half the money goes to Hogs for the Cause. Half the money goes to Ronald McDonald House of Charleston. Last year, because the event fell on Veterans Day, and I myself am a veteran, we gave $10,000 right off the rip to the Fisher House here in Charleston, which is basically a Ronald McDonald House for veterans, for their families to stay while they undergo treatment at the VA. So that's, was huge for us. But it's turned into an amazing event. The first year, this will be year 4. Year 1, we started with 28 pitmasters from all over the country. This year we'll have over 60.
Over 60.
Over 60. Yep. And last year we were able to donate $120,000 from one event. So
that is amazing. I need to be able to get out some year, but I know a lot of my friends there, and I know that a lot of people, it's for a good cause, but also people really enjoy doing it. I think it's something that everyone that I've talked to has really enjoyed, the camaraderie, and it's just been really special.
Yeah. So, when we sat down and thought about it, we do so many events, and we go to an event, we show up on a Thursday or Friday, and the entire time we're working, we have our head down. By the time we realize it's time to pack up and go home, what just happened? A lot of times we have to spend money out of pocket to get to these events, to provide food for these events. So those were like the factors that we really took into consideration. We wanted this to be not only a kick-ass fundraiser for these families, but we wanted it to be an event that our fellow pitmasters walked away from and said to themselves, wow, we really, this is a great event. So, we break everybody into villages. So you don't have individual tents. We do 4 villages. We do a Texas village, a new school village, a traditional village, and a coastal village. And the thought process behind that was, let's take the traditional village, for example. If you have Rodney Scott, Sam Jones, Chris Lilly, Kerry Bringle, and Pat Martin, right? When was the last time that those guys actually got a chance to sit around a fire and shoot the shit while doing what they love to do and cooking barbecue? It's been a minute. Yeah. Everybody's pulled in all their own directions. So in that traditional village, we're cooking 3 meats. We're doing whole hog, chicken, and ribs. So we have, 6 pitmasters to split those 3 proteins. So usually Sam and Michael from Sam Jones will partner up with Kerry Bringle on the ribs. We end up cooking the whole hog with Rodney. And this year or last year, we had Hector from Palmyra join us on the whole hog. He'll be coming back this year on the whole hog. And then we have Chris Lilly and Pat Martin split the chicken duties. They all do a signature side to go with it. So, they roll into town, all expenses are covered, their hotel rooms are covered, all their food is provided. We do a lot of the legwork in advance. Like, believe it or not, Chris likes my white sauce. So we make the white sauce for him. So when he's here, all he has to do is cook chicken, make a coleslaw to go with it. And, it's good to go. It's an enjoyable event. One of the biggest takeaways for me over these 4 years of this event, year 1, 30 minutes into the event, I'm cooking chicken with Chris Lilly. Never thought that would happen in my life. And Chris looks at me and he said, Anthony, this is probably one of the most well-executed events I've ever been a part of. Count me in for next year.
Wow.
Boom. And that's how we've gone from 28 to over 60. The second year, all 28 people wanted to come back. So we had, and we've had a lot of people ask to come. So we added a few. And then the second year, everybody that came wanted to come back. So now we're just slowly growing. And it's unfortunate because, well, not unfortunate, but, our main goal is to raise money. I would love to bring everybody that inquires about coming. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we need to be good stewards for this money that we're trying to raise. And we need to run this thing like a well-run event, keep mm-hmm. expenses in line with our budget, so we can deliver as much money to the charities at the bottom of the line as we can.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I didn't know the details about that. And what an experience for everyone involved. That's amazing. How, is it a 2-day event or is it a 1-day event?
It's a 1-day event. So Friday night we do we do a lineup and we bring in all the pitmasters, and then we bring in some of the top sponsors. And Schwei and his wife Corey from King Barbecue and Jackrabbit Philly. Duke's Mayonnaise actually sponsors a dinner Friday night for the pitmasters. So Schwei and his wife Corey put on the dinner for all the pitmasters. So we get, everybody's on scene anyway, getting set up for the next day, but it gives us a chance to just slow down a little bit and, socialize and make the connections and relive some of the old connections. And it gives some of our bigger name sponsors time to meet the pitmasters and get an up close and personal view of what we do. And then Saturday we roll into a single day event, 11 to 4, live music, 4 villages. So traditional will do the 3 plates, coastal will do 4 plates, Texas will do 3 plates, and new school will do 4 plates. So you get a ton of food for your money. It's a $95 ticket, but the food is ridiculously good.
And how many people generally show up?
We normally do about 3,500 tickets. Yeah. So we try, and that's the other piece of it. We try to keep it small. So from a guest perspective, it's enjoyable. We don't want you waiting in line for an hour to get a sample of something. And when I say sample, when you roll into the traditional village, we do what we call the meat in 3. So you get the hog in 2 sides, the rib in 2 sides, the chicken in 2 sides, and you get all 3 of those plates in one line. So you're not sitting in 3 different lines waiting. So you only have 4 lines to go through, 1 at each village. And then you take your food back to your table, have a good time, buy a beer, and enjoy the weather.
Have the tickets gone on sale yet, or are they?
They have. We launched them a few weeks ago.
Okay.
General admission is going well. VIP is almost sold out, so make sure you jump on the VIP tickets quick. VIP is a whole nother, we bring in chefs from all over the country. So VIP will have 6 different chefs cooking under the tent, doing, non-barbecue items for the VIP attendees as well. So VIP gets you a taste of all the villages, gets you a taste from 6 different chefs, and gets all your alcohol covered.
I'll put a link to that below because I know that I'm
Yeah.
glad we talked about this. I completely forgot how the attachment to that.
Yeah, so it's good. Like, so New School, that's usually like, for example, Fox Brothers. So they'll do a composed dish from start to finish. Well, last year they did their smash burger, their CAB smash burger, which
Oh,
it's just ridiculous. But so the guys at New School will do composed dishes. Our Coastal Village will do composed dishes, and then from Texas will do brisket, ribs, and sausage. So we ask everybody that's coming to participate in the Texas Village, which is usually 6 of them or 7. We'll ask them each to bring 50 pounds of their sausage that they make in their shop. And then we'll just rotate through that sausage throughout the course of the event.
how was that through TSA with sausage? Hasn't that
Oh,
been?
it's fine. They pack it into Yetis
Oh, I
and
know.
check it in. Yeah, they get it here fine.
I just think it's kind of funny. I'm sure there's been like interesting comments. Oh, I'm sure it's okay to deliver, but it's just such a funny thing that to bring that much sausage with you.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned the being a veteran, and thank you for your service, and I mean that. I'm not just saying that. But isn't that your service is what paved your way, right, for cooking?
Yes and no. I grew up outside of Philadelphia. My From an Italian family. So my grandmother and grandfather immigrated here separately in the early 1900s. My grandmother from Naples, Italy, and my grandfather from a little village just north of Naples called Grummanavana.
Okay.
And they went through Ellis Island, and they settled in Philadelphia, and that's where they met. And that's where my family started. So my father was born in South Philadelphia with his 2 brothers, and that's where he met my mother, and that's where they got married. My family roots trace back to that Italian heritage. And when I was probably 10 or 11 is when I really started to spend a lot of time in the kitchen with my mother. My mother's parents died early when she was young. So she learned, and her and my father married or met when she was young. So she learned how to cook from my Italian grandmother. So the time I spent with my kitchen and with my mother, even though she's Irish, we cooked Italian. And then the time that I got to spend with my grandmother in her kitchen, we also cooked Italian. The pig obviously is very big in Italian culture. I learned how to roast a pig at an early age. It might not have been overall wood, but it was, still roasting hogs.
Oh, wow.
My father was a butcher at one point early on in his career. So I learned a lot of butchery traits from him, especially with the pig. And then I worked my way through high school in kitchens. And
Okay.
then when I started my senior year of high school, I went ahead and enlisted in the Navy. I did the advanced enlistment program with the Navy. So I knew as soon as I graduated, I'd be going to boot camp. And I did. About 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I left for San Diego, and I did my 8 weeks of basic training in San Diego. I did a 4-week A school in San Diego, which is for cooking. And at that point, I volunteered for submarine duty.
Okay.
And from there, I went to Groton, Connecticut, and I finished 3 months worth of submarine school. And then I got shipped to Charleston, South Carolina, and to meet up with my first boat, which was USS Batfish, which was a fast attack, an old sturgeon class fast attack. So the keel on that boat was actually laid in 1972, the same year I was born. And life throws you those little signs. The only house I ever lived in before I left for the Navy, my street address was 681 Sacramento Drive. When I walked up the plank on the pier to get to that submarine for the first time, the whole number of that submarine was 681.
What
So
the heck?
go figure.
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah.
funny how life is? That is amazing.
Yeah.
There are no coincidences. It's
No.
just, oh my
So that was
gosh.
it. So, I left home 681. I got the 681. And that's where I spent my whole naval career, 4 years of it, cooking on board the USS Batfish, fast attack submarine. I got there right at the tail end of 90, and we were pretty deep into the Persian Gulf at that time.
Yeah.
So my first 2 years was actually spent in the Persian Gulf and we used to ride out of La Maddalena, Italy, was where our sub tender was stationed, and that was our to and from port at the time.
Wow.
So we were pretty active during the Persian Gulf.
That was that Gulf War One? Is that, or when, I'm trying to think
Yes.
of? Okay,
Yeah, that was Desert Storm.
Desert Storm. Yeah. Could we just backtrack for a second as to what is it like? Because I'm sure a lot of people don't know. What is it like being on a submarine? And was that okay for you, or were there times where you got stir crazy, or is that?
Yeah, so I will say the U.S. Navy is smart, and volunteer submarine is strictly voluntary. So
Okay.
you have to volunteer to be on submarines. They're not going to just pick you out of the crowd and put you on submarine. So A, you have to volunteer. B, you get to Groton, Connecticut, and the first several weeks of that school is all the mental stress tests. So they weed out the population real quick. I'm not sure exactly what the graduation rate is, but it's not very high.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then because the real training happens when you first get to your boat. So the school is great. And like I said, that's more of your mental stress testing. And it gives you a basic background of what you're about to encounter. When you first get to the submarine, you're actually paired up with a senior sailor. And you have 6 months in which they call qualify to be a submariner. So from inside that 6 months, you have to basically learn the scenario is if you're the only one left alive, you need to be able to get that ship somewhere safe. So, for example, you have to learn the hydraulic system from forward to aft. You have to know the entire hydraulic system, where all the shutoffs are, what it does, how it does it. You have to know the electrical systems forward to aft. You have to know basics of the weapons system. You have to know how to drive. There's so many things you have to do. And like you have to go in front of the officers and do a board. So there's a dry erase board in front of you. You have to draw those hydraulic systems out, answers a series of questions. So it's a board, from every department in order to qualify.
That is
If you don't qualify, you get sent to the surface fleet. If you do qualify, then you're proud to wear those dolphins on your chest and, consider yourself a submariner for the rest of your life. So
that is amazing. Wow.
It's less than 1% of the population can say they're actually a submariner. So
wow. And what was like how long would you guys stay underwater for? Would it be like a week at a time? Or?
No, my longest time continuously submerged was 4 months and 16 days.
4 months. That's like that's like being going to space. That's
yeah.
It really, because I kept thinking about how like this when they read this recent thing with the space station, and then how these guys and they had to stay till February, and but it's like
they thought they were going for a couple of weeks, and here they are. Yeah, so it was so that you got two different submarines in the United States Naval Fleet. You have real submarines, which are fast attack boats, and then you have fake submarines, which are boomers. That's what we call them. That's an inside joke. But the boomer guys are, the ballistic missile boats. They have two crews, and they go 6 months at a time, 6 months out. And while one crew is out for 6 months, the other crew is back on base for 6 months. Fast attack boats, we were a phone call. So if we get a phone call saying, hey, we had to be ready, we'd have about 48 hours in which to load out and then go. And, submarine service, nicknamed the silent service, you don't know where you're going. So there's no communication about where you're going, how long you're going to be gone until you're actually submerged. And they know that there's no way of you having contact with anybody. Then you kind of get the gist of where you're going, what you're going to do, how long you're going to be gone.
Do you forget you're underwater after a while? Like, does it just
You do. It just becomes, it's 3 8-hour shifts a day for the normal crew. There was 3 of us that cooked. We had 130 guys on the boat, and then we did breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a midnight meal for 130 guys. So they would work their 8-hour shifts. They'd get off shift. They'd have a meal. They'd go to bed. Then just repeat that cycle every day of the week.
And it also gives you people an idea who are listening to this or watching this that these are pretty large vessels, because you have enough food, you have enough everything for 4 months, 5 months.
So we had a refrigerator and a freezer. Our refrigerator actually had 2 compressors on the top. So when we did get that phone call, we would have a rough idea of how much we needed to load out for. So if it was, an extended period of time, we would take that refrigerator and just flip it into a freezer. And then we would take all of our chilled items, potatoes, onions, eggs, and we would use the torpedo tubes to stuff all the chilled items with. Because, you know, once you're down 600-700 feet, the water's cold. It's able to keep those items chilled. So all of our, you know, produce and eggs and perishables, we'd keep stored in the torpedo tubes until we ate through them. And then we'd turn our refrigerator into a freezer, and we'd be able to carry more product.
So interesting, so intriguing. I could talk to you this for
Yeah.
2 hours, but some people might be saying, "Where's the barbecue talk?" It's so funny. I've gotten comments like, "How come we haven't talked about?" I'm like, well, you know what? Life's interesting. This is very like I don't get it. How often do you get a chance? And maybe over a drink someday we'll talk more about this.
Yeah.
So how did you then transition to the How did the barbecue come about? What was the path after you got out?
So I got off the submarines in May of '94, and I got hired on to a new restaurant in downtown Charleston called Blossom Cafe, which was sister restaurant to Magnolia's, which Magnolia's was one of the first fine dining restaurants really to kick off the fine dining revolution in Charleston. I worked there for a couple of years, and I just made my way around. I ended up at Kiowa Island Hotel, and I was the executive chef there. I took them from 2 diamond to 4 diamond. So I lived that fine dining life for a while. When my son, actually, when I started getting him into drums when he was 10. Our teacher at the time, or his teacher at the time, encouraged us to attend the blues jam every Wednesday night at Home Team Barbecue because it was a great place for him to cut his chops. So we did. So I had never met any of the guys from Home Team Barbecue at the time. And, you know, every Wednesday night I would sit there and I would, you know, they did a quick service. They had a line that you'd walk through and with your tray, and you tell them what you want. They'd put the food on your tray, you'd cash out, you'd get your own drink, and you'd go sit down at a table. And then when you're done, you'd clear your own table. And, you know, my wheels started to turn. And I'm looking at this, and at the time I was at a restaurant called Rita's on Folly Beach, and we had a smoker, and I was starting to dabble in pork butts and brisket and wings, and I was doing well with it, and it was kind of igniting my own fire about barbecue. So as I started to watch this business model, then, like I said, my wheels, my restaurateur mind started to wander, and I was like, okay, well, what if I took this and I mixed it with not fine dining, but full service dining? And that's, you know, in Charleston at the time, you had Bessinger's Barbecue, which is now 87 years old or 88 years old.
So, yeah.
So you had Bessinger's Barbecue, and then you had Home Team Barbecue. Home Team opened 7 years before I opened the doors at Swig Swine. Okay. So there was a considerable gap between the barbecue establishments. And then after Home Team opened, there was 7 years, and there wasn't any new barbecue in town in 7 years. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's a good opportunity. So we opened the doors to Swig Swine, and we did all wood-fired barbecue with full-service dining. So you come through the door, you're greeted by a hostess, you're taken to a table, you're served from start to finish. We have a full bar with 42 whiskeys and bourbons. We have 14 draft beers in all locations, and then 30 to 40 packaged beers in all locations as well. Desserts, you know, you name it. We're open from 11 to 9, 7 days a week.
Yeah, I was going to say every day. Yes.
Yeah, we use our data. You know, that's the one thing I've learned is just to use the data so we don't run out. So, you know, we're adjusting PARs every day based on data from yesterday compared to the year before, to the week before. And our managers are constantly pulling data and figuring out what to cook and when to cook it. So, you know, that's the other thing where you can count on us to have product for you from 11 to 9.
And recently talking to Robert Moss from Southern Living, he mentioned how the South and Southern and Charleston are places where people expect to have dinner. It's a lunch and dinner place.
Yes. So that's, you know, that was my shtick. How could I take barbecue, wood-fired barbecue, mix it with full service dining, and give you the best experience overall possible? And that's what we do. We serve the best barbecue we can cook, and we serve it with genuine Southern hospitality. And that's been our model, and that's been, I think, the secret to our success.
How did you come up with the name? Because I think I know why it's called Swig Swine, but how did you?
Well, ironically, the two guys I used to work for, Chip Roberts and Bobby Perry, when I was building out the first Swig Swine, I had a list of 20 names. And I went into Chip's office one day and I started to tell him names. Swig Swine was not on that list. Bobby Perry poked his head around the corner from his office and he's like, Swig Swine. And I'm like, boom, done, sold. All you need to know.
Did you have any anticipation that it would grow to 4 and 5 locations now?
No. I mean, I was, like I said, I've been a cook my entire life. Never have I ever considered myself to be a restaurateur, or would I ever expect myself to be a restaurateur of this size. An interesting fact to back up to, in 1989, when I joined the Navy, I wrote that caption in my senior yearbook underneath my picture, and it said that I would do 4 years in the military and that would open my own restaurant. So, I've been hyper-focused my entire life, but did I ever think it would be something like this? No. We opened the first one, we had 5 guys in the kitchen, and we had, I think we had 6 servers and a bartender, and we were only open 5 days a week to start. And we slowly increased our days, and business increased. And it wasn't 2 years later that we opened number 2.
And where was the second? Which one was the second?
Somerville. Yeah. So West Ashley is technically Charleston. So we're in the Charleston zip code. We're in city limits, but it's considered West Ashley because it's west of the Ashley River. Okay. So that Charleston is a peninsula made by the Ashley River and the Cooper River. So if you're west of the Ashley, you know where you're at. If you're east of the Cooper, you know where you're at. So West Ashley is the original location. We opened that in 2014. And then in 2016, we opened Summerville, South Carolina, which is about 30 minutes from the West Ashley store, headed inland.
Okay.
And, that was an interesting store because that was, our first growth moment. And I quickly realized that the original location was me. It was survival. I put everything into it. It had to work. Otherwise I was going to die. Yeah. I mean, seriously. I mean, everything I had was on the line for that first location. When we opened that second location, we went around in circles and we got to know the staff that we were hiring. And as they started to introduce themselves, they had to tell a little bit about themselves. About 75% of that staff had a family. Maybe they had one child or they had a wife. And, I left that meeting and my shoulders just got heavier because I'm like, all right, it's not about me anymore. Now I got to keep this place open so these people can provide livings for their families.
Yeah.
And that never dawned on me until that moment. And now it's like, a whole new weight is there. And it's, it takes on a whole new meaning. And so that was the interesting part about that first growth period. The third restaurant was in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, which is east of the Cooper, which is about 45 minutes from the original location. And that one, if you look at it on the map, is at the gates of a travel baseball facility. So there's a facility there called Shipyard Park that the owners of Denton Shipyard built. And there's 5 fields. And like this weekend, there's 42 teams playing there. Oh, but when they leave that facility, boom, they come right to the Swig Swine. So perfect. We manage the concession piece inside that stadium for the owner. And that's kind of our trade-off for the location. So that was 2018, I think. Then 2019 was a pivotal moment because I bought my partners out. When I opened, I was 50% when I opened Swig Swine. I had 2 partners, father and son. They were each 25%. And somebody had come to town and was interested in buying the concept. I didn't want to sell. It's everything I had. The street value at the time was enough for me to retire on. If I had to split it down the middle and pay off debt, where would I be? I'd be back to working for somebody else. So I approached our bankers who had run the bit or who had held our books for the business since day one, because he knew we were good for it. I'm like, hey man, what if I decide to buy this? So he put me in touch with the SBA, and I managed to work a loan through the SBA. They guaranteed the loan. And that deal was supposed to happen in May. So if you know anything about Charleston, January and February are historically slow. So my thought process, because I had to drain all the bank accounts in order to put the down payment down on this SBA loan. So I knew that if I could do it in May or June, it would give me July, August, September, October, November, December, build the accounts back up before winter hit. Well, because of dealing with lawyers, things drag on.
Yeah.
Ended up going to the closing table. You ready for this? Friday, December 13th. Friday the 13th in December. I walked away from that closing table with $70,000 to float 3 restaurants through the 2 slowest months of the year.
Oh.
It was a nervous wreck. So then we get through January, we held tight, we held steady, we didn't lose a dime. It was good. I still had $70,000. February comes along, going great. COVID, right?
Right there,
we got our
right
shutdown
there.
orders. We got our shutdown orders. I think it was the end of February, beginning of March.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
We had to go to go only. So I rallied all of my, at the time we had probably 100, maybe 100 hourly employees. And then I probably had 10 salaried employees between the 3 restaurants. I pulled everybody, all my salary managers into a room, and we said, look, that came on a Monday. We had to go only on a Wednesday. So Tuesday, we came up with a plan. We were like, okay, look, we're going to lay off all the hourly employees. We're going to staff all these stores with salaried managers. And if my calculations are correct, we only need to do $10,000 in sales a week, and I can pay all the bills. I can still manage my SBA loan. I can still pay rent because I didn't want to have to fall behind on rent.
Yeah.
And I can still pay your salaries. So that was the plan. Wednesday, we kicked it off. Well, you remember what happened. Paper towels were short. Toilet paper was short. Eggs, milk were short. Nobody could find it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We moved glass front refrigerators from the back of the house into the bar areas, and we turned our bars into bodegas. So when you came to pick up your to-go order, you could buy a roll of toilet paper off the bar,
smart.
dozen eggs, gallon of milk, whatever you want. So, that was our survival. We're like, how do we do this? By the second week of operation during COVID, we needed to do 30 grand, between the 3 stores to break even. We did almost 90. We tripled the sales we needed in each store. So what we did, we took all the profit at the end of the month or at the end of the week. We banked half of it. Then we took the other half of it and we bought gift cards, $100 gift cards to one of the local grocery stores that had a pharmacy included. And all the staff that we had laid off could come in on Friday and collect gift cards so they could buy groceries for their family and get their prescriptions. Since, because I felt like I let them down. I mean, and so our staff during that time could come in and get a free meal every day. And at the end of the week, they collect gift cards to buy groceries and pharmacy for their family.
Phenomenal.
Within 2 months, we had 80% of our hourly employees back on the clock because we were just so busy. Yeah, we were blessed. Yeah. So that was 2020. And then our 2 of our stores actually showed growth that year at the end of the year, which was amazing. And that was it. And then, the plans started happening for number 5 or number 4, sorry.
Yeah.
Number 4, which was in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. And then about 2 or 3 months after I finished the first meeting with store number 4, store number 5 fell into my lap in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So I'm like, and it's the construction world and it's COVID pricing and it's everything.
Yeah, dealing with all that.
Yeah. So fast forward to last summer, Myrtle Beach was in full construction mode. Moncks Corner was in full construction mode. I didn't know which one was going to open first. And then the guy who owns Common House Ale Works here in Charleston approached me about taking over the kitchen in his space. And so we agreed to do that. Oh. So still not knowing which restaurant's going to open first, we went into the winter months, just going through the paces and getting 2 restaurants ready to open at the same time, plus now this 3rd one. And then December hit and my son had his accident and, I'm living 4 days a week in a hospital And then in February, I'm commuting to Atlanta 4 days a week to stay with him while he's in there. We opened the brewery January 1st. We opened Myrtle Beach February 23rd. And then we opened Monk's Corner May 20th. He came home from rehab May 28th.
Talk about like multitasking to the nth degree, and having to compartmentalize so many things, like business wise, but emotionally. And like the fact that it's a testament to you and to your team, like to everyone you surround yourself with, to be able to get through this, because it's been a challenge from COVID to all this. That's wild. That is.
And I did it sober.
Sober.
I stopped drinking 4 years ago.
Good for you.
And and that's another feather in my cap after all this, is that I managed to stay sober after the 8 months that we've just had. But yeah, it is a testament. My team is amazing. My team, and it's one of those full circle things that we talk about, and the signs that life give you. So in 1994, when I got hired at that restaurant called Blossoms, our assistant manager at the time was Todd Campbell. Well, Todd is now my director of operations.
Oh, wow.
And another young lady we worked with at the time, Mary Austin, who was a manager at Magnolia's next door and a server at Blossoms, is now my director of catering. And my VP has been with me for going on 8 years now. He's an Air Force veteran. So I have Jeff, my VP, an Air Force vet. I have Todd, who was, a longtime friend, but also an Army veteran. So I surround myself with people who are not only older than me, but a lot wiser than me.
Oh, and that's a smart lesson, and that's smart advice. But you talked to the Feegis, right?
I first met Patrick and Aaron through Hogs for the Cause.
I think that's what I thought.
And they started doing Holy Smokes for us the first year. They were actually one of our first phone calls.
Okay.
And they agreed to do Holy Smokes with us, and yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, but I remember her talking to her and specifically about certain people that she talks to, that they talk to get business advice, because there's a lot of challenges in this, and to go from one location to a second location, sometimes that's a death knell for a lot of restaurants, or to a third. Like 2 works, but 3 sometimes
you're stretching it. Yeah,
and to go from, now you have 5 plus that brewery, plus you do the concession. There's a lot of wheels rolling.
Yeah, and a food truck and a full service catering operation. So
yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're I think we're a little over 250 employees now.
Wow.
So yeah, it's amazing, but no, I never in a million years. And if you had told me this was going to happen in 2014 after we just opened the first one, I never would have believed you.
Wow, I'm so proud of you. That's amazing. Look, I want to talk kind of deep dive a little bit in the menu, because I want to know what people can expect when they come to visit you. You have the M&M hat. Do you now have M&Ms?
Oh yeah, so we've opened all of our new locations opened with M&M. So I have 2 2000s in the Monk's Corner location, and I have 2 2000s in the Myrtle Beach location.
Okay, all right. What do you have in the other locations? Do you have JNRs?
JR Oilers.
Okay.
Yep, we got JR 700s in the other locations.
Okay, I was just curious. That's another geeky thing that I love. I love pits, and I'm really into it. So and how are those M&Ms? Do you love them?
I love them. So and I had this conversation with Ryan from JR. I texted him on the side, and I said, look, because obviously he's planning himself in that company now, and he's getting out on the street and meeting people. But I've built my company off of relationships. Mm-hmm. Even with my food vendors, I have relationships. I mean, it's a trust factor for me. It's a personal relationship. I am who I am. I put my pants on the same way you do every day. Just because you sell me groceries or just because you sell me smokers doesn't mean you're better than me. It doesn't mean I'm better than you. Yeah. And at the time, JR Oiler was just monster corporation, and I felt like a number. And when I've met Matt and Mike from M&M, I'm like, man, it's refreshing to me, because these guys are just like me. They're trying to earn a living for their family. doing what they know how to do and doing it, with passion. And that really, hit home to me. And that's how our relationship began.
That makes sense. No, and
Yeah.
that's how I feel with them. And they're just like I had mentioned to you, like I text them all the time. It's refreshing. It's also too because I'm just couple years older than you, and it's refreshing to talk to people that are younger that are passionate about life. I love to surround myself too with people that are younger because it definitely makes you remember that passion.
And through the you'll appreciate this. So through our relationship, like, so now our wives are friends. So Bettina and
Oh,
my wife are friends, and we have a group chat, and we're always cutting up and everything. So my wife just sent Bettina a hat. She had her a hat made to match hers.
I love that.
The day after Bettina got it, she modeled it for us. But yeah, great people. I love them.
Hmm.
Awesome family, and they build a hell of a smoker.
Hmm. Yeah, and I can't wait to visit them just in general to hang out, but I also want to see what they do, and it's a perfect marriage of Matt and Mike. They're
I guess it was about 3 years ago that I toured their facility, and we actually met in person for the first time. And our conversation kind of trended to how I'm evolving and how I'm growing the business. And, one of my probably proudest moments is the fact that, the growth that we've done with these 3 new locations, I've done financially on my own. So
wow.
I didn't want to go, that SBA loan after the original purchase is big enough. I didn't want to be in debt to anybody else. So I was really smart with my money. My brother-in-law works for Morgan Stanley. He came alongside me, showed me how to make my money work for me. And I kind of shared that knowledge with Mike and Matt a couple of years ago, and kind of showed them how to grow without having that overwhelming debt over your head.
Hmm.
And I think they've done well with that.
That's huge. That's important because that additional stress, like you talked about the stress in your second location with the families knowing that, but with that monetary stress
Yeah, I hate debt.
is terrible. It's terrible. It is terrible. I was kind of just these notes I had made maybe a month ago when we were first going to talk. Pork rinds. You have 3 recipes of pork rinds. Do you have 3 different types of pork rinds? Am I crazy?
No, we do. Well, we do a pork rind and pimento cheese.
Yeah.
And then we do a pork rind, and we'll after we pull them out of the fryer, we'll drizzle them with some Tabasco honey and some crumbled blue cheese. And then we do another one where we do nachos with them.
Okay. Okay. So you have different dishes with pork rinds.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, can we maybe go over the proteins in your menu and then I like pork puppies?
Yeah, it's a pork hush. It's a hush puppy.
It's a hush puppy. Okay.
Yeah, a hush puppy, and we take the hush puppy. We mix the hush puppy together, and then we fold in some chopped pork to it,
Okay.
and some smoked jalapeno to it, just to kind of make it our own. In these days where the proteins are so expensive, you got to try to make that food cost. And
Yeah.
pork rinds help food costs.
Oh,
Pork
yeah.
puppies help food costs. Fried pickles help food costs. Do I really want 10 appetizers? No. But at some point in time, it's the only thing that really saves food costs at the end of the day. But yeah, so protein wise, I'm a proud brand ambassador of Certified Angus Beef. I've been a brand partner with them since 2016.
Wow.
Amazing organization.
Yeah.
Just to get to know some of these ranchers and what I've learned over the years is I'm the final representation of a rancher's life work.
True.
And I never thought about it like that before.
No.
You buy a piece of beef, it's in a box, you open it, you cook it, you serve it. So what about that rancher? What about him and his family trying to survive? And what about that rancher, going through genetics and trying to make his beef genetically, the best beef it can be? They're putting a lot of work into that.
Yeah.
And so I've learned, that's what I've learned through Certified Angus Beef. And I take a lot of pride in knowing that I'm the last piece of the puzzle in that whole Certified Angus Beef chain.
It's an interesting way to look at it. Very interesting.
Yeah. So, Certified Angus Beef brisket, we have turkey, we have obviously pork shoulder, we have wings, we have ribs, we have half chickens, and pork belly are our primary proteins.
And sidewise, you have you have hash, right? You have
Oh yeah, we got hash and rice. We have mac and cheese. We have collard greens. We have Brunswick stew.
Huh.
We have a mayonnaise based coleslaw, vinegar based coleslaw. We have corn pudding, and then we do our pintos with some brisket scrap
And you also have pimento cheese, right?
and pimento cheese. Yep, that's one of our appetizers.
Because it's just so funny because I could, and I think that people should visit because we could a lot of people that are watching this might not know what Brunswick stew is. They might not quite have ever had pimento cheese the southern way. They might have had it just out of a jar somewhere here, like especially if they're in Los Angeles or somewhere on the West Coast. And then also hush puppies is something until I used to go to Greensboro. Well, I used to go to High Point, North Carolina for
Okay,
business. When my dad was alive, we sold furniture to hotels, and so we'd go
gotcha.
there twice a year to High Point Market, Furniture Market, and that's when I went to Lexington Barbecue and Stamey's, and I started like places that were so foreign to me because I'm from Los Angeles, so we had no history until recently of barbecue. Really, we just had ribs that were slathered with sauce, and that was
Yeah.
it. And so I started to, and and even sweet tea. With the first time I had sweet tea, I thought, wow, this is really sweet. Like it's making my fillings
Oh,
hurt.
liquid diabetes.
But it was just wild. And it's so there's things we could do a deep dive on specific items, but I think that people just they have to visit or they have to visit the
Yeah.
South to kind of understand those things. I know dessert wise, do you guys have a number of desserts too?
Yeah. So, the dessert piece is funny because those first, we first opened the first restaurant, I only had one smoker. And it wasn't a rotisserie. It was just a cabinet and a wood fired cabinet. And it was small. So I was basically cooking 24 hours a day. My routine was, I'd cook all day I'd work the block. So if you ever come into the original location, you'll notice that the chopping block is set up behind the counter in such a way that I can see the entire dining room from the chopping block.
Okay.
So I could manage the floor from the block. So if you were at table, 31, the third one on the left, and your tea was half empty, then I could direct somebody over to fill your tea. Those are the things that I built into the original location. So I would do lunch service, I would do dinner service, and then I would start all the proteins for the next day. And I had a cot in the back, and I would go down for a nap, and I would set my phone alarm for every 45 minutes. And every 45 minutes I'd roll off the cot and I'd go stoke a fire and I'd turn product and I'd go back and I'd sleep again. And I did that all night long. And then in the morning, when the first guy got there, I would go home and I would shower, I would change, and then I would come back and I would run lunch service and dinner service, and I would do that process all over again. Like I said, we were luckily only open 5 days a week in the beginning. And I did that for 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I tell you, it's the real deal. Like I didn't start this thing with a slush fund. I started this thing with a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
I put the work into it and made it happen. And that's probably, if I look back on it, that's probably one of the biggest things I'm most proud of, is the fact that, we did this thing guerrilla style, and, we made it happen.
How does it feel going back to that first location? Does it
Oh, it's
always
great.
have a sense of, kind of
Yeah.
pride that
Yeah. It's a great little store. Parking sucks.
okay.
We
Well,
knew
that's
that,
good to know.
yeah, we knew that from the beginning, but it was one of those things. I couldn't turn down the rent. The rent was dirt cheap. I had been driving past this building for years. It's vacant. And in my mind, I'm always like, I can do something with that. I can do something with that. And, the first day I got the keys from the landlord just to look at it, I brought some graph paper in with me, and I actually sketched out the actual interior as to what you see today, based off of
Wow.
that visit. It was an old OK Tire store. So
Really?
yeah. If you go back through my social media, you could, around the anniversary date, like in May,
Okay,
you
I'll
could see
check.
before and after pictures. But it's pretty impressive what we did with that little spot.
Where would you recommend people parking then? Because I know that people listening to this will want to
Oh,
go to the.
there's a
Is there?
shopping center right next door.
Okay.
There's a shopping center next door, so there's plenty of parking. You
Okay.
just got to just walk across the sidewalk, but it's,
That's not
you
hard.
know, yeah, no, but that's it.
Do you have right now like a favorite? new location, or and one of them's the newest? Isn't that one of them on the water, right? Or do you have a couple of
Yeah,
them?
Monk's
Monk's Corner,
Corner
yeah.
is probably one of the, well, Myrtle Beach, I think, is probably one of the nicest.
Okay.
That's an old Napa Auto Parts store. And it's actually three 2,500 square foot spaces side by side that we took over.
Wow.
We actually have a private room in that space to host parties, and then we have a nice patio with a wood burning fireplace outside for the wintertime. But Monk's Corner is nice. That's our first ever brand new construction.
Okay.
The landlord there built that thing from the ground up for us, and we finished out the interior. And we're on the waterway. So there's if you look at the bird's eye view of Charleston, the Cooper River, which I said is one of the rivers that makes Charleston Peninsula. If you ride the Cooper River as far as you can, it takes you to a dam. And then that dam takes you into Lake Moultrie, and then Lake Moultrie to Lake Marion, and that'll take you to the middle of the state. So right at that dam, there's a body of water called the Tail Race Canal, which is the spillway for that dam. And the restaurant is right there.
Oh, wow.
So we have an 800-foot courtesy dock, so you can pull up by boat and have lunch or dinner.
I think maybe you had said that, or I read that somewhere. Wow,
Yeah, it's awesome.
that is awesome. What would be your ideal order? Like if someone said, I'm going to come visit, what should I order? What would you recommend?
Our family plate. We call it the family plate. When we first started, I struggled because your classical Texas barbecue place, you go and you order a couple meats by the pound, a couple sides by the pint or quart. You sit down and you share. The way we structured our menu, everything was by the plate. So you had a brisket plate, or you had a 2-meat plate, or a 3-meat plate. So I'm like, how can I get everybody to try everything? So we developed the family plate.
Okay.
So the family plate is all 7 of our proteins, and then 3 large family sides to share. One family plate will feed 3 to 4 people.
Oh,
so,
wow. Okay. Well, I'm gonna order that.
And you can't beat it. I think right now it's like $72 or $76, but it's brisket, it's pork, it's wings, it's ribs, it's turkey, it's pork belly. So
no, I've ordered like almost everything or at certain Texas places, and it's like $150, $180, almost $200.
It's good. It's a good sample of everything, and it's, like I said, it's plenty of food to feed 3 to 4 adults.
Wow. And online, you have the ability to can you pre-order at your places?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's okay.
But so we're set up for Uber Eats at all of our locations. We're set up for Easy Cater is real popular here. I don't know if you have that in California.
I've just heard of it, but we don't have it out here. No.
Yeah, so it's real big in the pharmaceutical world. So pharmaceutical reps that would buy takeout for a doctor's office, now they can just do it from their phone.
So smart.
So they punch in the address of their doctor's office that they want to deliver it to, and then Easy Cater pulls up restaurants within a 10-mile radius. They order the food. Easy Cater arranges delivery. Easy Cater comes, picks it up, take it to the doctor's office. Yeah, farm rep doesn't have to get their hands dirty, and it makes life easy for us too, because it's a whole nother customer base that we're reaching.
Yeah, it is crazy. That's a smart idea. I never even knew that was the angle. That's a
they're based out of. I want to say they're based out of Boston, and the benefit for the farm rep is Easy Cater kicks back like 10% on a check card to the farm reps. So the farm reps ring up points over the course of the month, and then they get check cards with money on it.
That's cool. That's really smart. That's really smart. And then is there anything that you want people to know about, because we've talked for over an hour?
Yeah, but we do have merch. Our sauces are out of stock currently, but they're back in production now, so it's probably 2 or 3 weeks they'll be back in stock.
Wow, like it's so great. I just, and the way that you describe Charleston and the waterways and all that, it's so foreign to me, because we only have the Pacific, really. There's not, and it's wild.
Basically a series of barrier islands. So my average commute, I'm on 3 or 4 different bridges a day. Like just for an average drive to one of my restaurants, I have to cross at least 3 or 4 bridges.
Wow. And do you find yourself popping around? Are you going throughout the week to do all the different locations, or?
Yeah. So like next week, Tuesday, I'm working the smoke room in my Mount Pleasant location.
Okay.
Thursday, I'm in that smoke room again. And then and one of my free days next week, I need to figure out times to get up to Myrtle Beach. That's 2.5 hours away.
Oh, it is. Okay.
So it's you got to carve out the time to get up there too. But yeah, so I bounce around.
Okay. So the best place to maybe, if someone was wanted to meet you, it might be at one of these events that you're at, like at an event too.
Yeah.
That's just, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's great. I appreciate you so much. I have so much respect for you, and I know what you've, especially, me going through what I've gone through for the last 6 years with my mom. I know how hard it's been with Asher, and how rewarding those, but how rewarding, but also it's hard. And you see, like 4 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's a challenge
Yeah.
with anything. But also it shows how strong he is as a person, and
Yeah.
it's
He's
just,
come a long way.
wow, that's wild. Anyways, thank you so, not anyways,
Yeah, man,
but
thank you. I'm glad we finally got to connect.
yeah.